What's up, everybody? Your boy Heat Rocks. Hey, listen, this video, so I've been excited about the playoffs starting, and I'm gonna just preface the video by saying baseball used to be my favorite sport when I was a kid, and then I got introduced to basketball and football. And football, I would say, for the last 30 years, 20 years, 25 years, it's been a long time, has been my favorite sport. And I don't know if football ever be dethroned, for me at least. But basketball used to be a good solid two for me. But the way basketball is played now, every team plays the same. It's drive and pitch, drive and pitch, drive and pitch. No offense is different from any other offense. They all play the same ball. And quite certainly, I actually like the female WNBA basketball better than the NBA, to actually watch it. Yeah, now obviously I watch more NBA because I know all the players and stuff like that, but the actual sport, the skill of the sport, the women are playing at a high rate. And I started watching them when they first came into the league, and they were terrible, but they're really, really good. They're fundamentally sound. They make shots. They actually score. The scores are not like, 40 to 50 anymore. They're actually, pretty decent scores, 70, 80, 90, 100. So it's gotten way better. So I would say, but this is kind of leading into the purpose of this, or the point of this video. But basketball right now is not number two my favorite sport. It's not my second favorite sport. Baseball has overstepped basketball for me. Once again, I like football number one, baseball number two, NBA number three, and then whatever after that. It really doesn't matter. The rest of the sports there's no other. Hockey's not a major sport anymore. They destroyed themselves with the lockout. No TV deals. But anyway, so that gets me into Major League Baseball. So I got 2 points that I'm gonna talk about in this video. One is the playoff format, or the lack of a better playoff system / format in Major League Baseball, and why they need to redo it, and some of my thoughts about it. And then the other part is my thoughts around the NL versus the AL when it comes to, with respect to the DH rule. And I'll talk about this based on what I saw last night and what I was telling my wife, which she didn't really care, but I was telling her anyway. So anyway, let's get into baseball. So they play 162 games a year. 162 games. The most important games are played in winter, which is another video I'll do probably another time, but kind of stupid. But my point with yesterday was a one and done, win or go home, and I actually watched the whole game. And I don't root for either of these teams, Toronto and Baltimore. I don't really care. I don't really have a preference. But 50,000 fans screaming, stayed all the way. It's extra innings. It goes 11 innings. Not one person leaves the ballpark. The excitement of the game in the playoffs is so much better, and people are so more in tune to be a part of it and watch the game. Why does baseball have to have 162 boring games that don't mean anything? If a team is up after 120 games, 140 games, 99% of the time they win. They win the division. They get in the wild card, whatever it may be. The point being, you don't need 162 games to decide who is the best team. In fact, injuries could play a part of that, or people wearing down can play a part of that as you play all of these non-factor games. I mean, the MLB would be better. I would like to see them go to like 120 games, where the season could end sometime around July or maybe into August a little bit. But I think a nice sweet spot for them would be 140 games, because you would chop 22 games off of the season, and those 22 games could potentially be an extra round or 2 or 3 for playoffs, which I think, one, would generate a lot more fan interest. A lot of the playoffs would be decided in warmer weather, and you'd have a lot more money being spent on the sport from a TV perspective, a commercial perspective, MLB gear. You'd have a lot more fan interest. You sell a lot more seats. Nobody wants to come to baseball games in July and August, and now a little bit in September, since with the climate change we've gone through recently, well, for a long time. But people will show up in August if it's the playoffs. I just think that the Major League system right now, they tried to add this extra wild card team, but because the season we're in October now, and the playoffs officially haven't started, because yesterday's game is really like a play-in to the playoffs. I just think that MLB is really stuck on 162 games, and it all goes back to this tradition and everything's got to be how it was. No, man, progress towards a better system, a better playoff. I think that could do wonders for the sport. I really don't watch a lot of games. I watch all the playoff games. It's entertaining. 2-2, win one or go home. Extra innings, man. That's what it's about, man. I love the low scoring 2-2 games, defensive struggles. It's all about key timing, timely hits, and it's all about pitching and matchups. And man, that's when baseball shines. And the reason it shines is because, for me, it goes back to football, where I don't think football is chess. It's checkers. It's chess. It's about matchups, creating space, creating different formations to get one-on-one matchups, to get a mismatch. It's all, and that is when baseball shines truly, when you have playoff baseball, because it really exposes managers. A lot of people gave Buck Showalter a lot of crap for not putting in Britton yesterday, but he's gonna have to answer those questions. But every detail matters. Everything that happens in the game matters. It'll be exciting. Imagine having baseball from middle of August all the way through October, playoffs, and then you get the World Series. It'd be great, man. I'm just saying, if somebody at MLB's watching, man, I'm telling you, listen to me. Now, the second part of the video I wanted to talk about was the NL versus the AL. Now, the AL has a rule called the DH rule, designated hitter, where an extra position player actually hits for the pitcher. So the pitcher never hits when they play in the AL in American League ballparks. So yesterday, you had Toronto in the 10th inning, yeah, it happened in the 10th inning, but no, this was the 11th inning. This was what the final out, the final out. So it's 1 out. It's 1st and 3rd. No, let's back up. It's no outs and a guy on first. And the first thing I tell my wife is, you need to bunt this guy over so you can get him into scoring position, which they do not. But it didn't matter because the next guy got a hit. So now you have Edwin Encarnacion. Now, yeah, I understand that he hit a 3-run home run. I get all that. But the point is, you got to bunt those guys over. And we'll also talk about the 10th inning in a minute. But the 11th inning, you got to bunt those guys over, because if you bunt them over, then they walk the next guy. They have the bases loaded, and you've got bases loaded, and you've got 1 out. Now, the pressure, the different amount of pressure that a pitcher and catcher have on them with this is it, if we lose, we go home, versus there's a guy on second versus there's a guy on third. If a guy is on second, a base hit most likely wins the game. In some rare instances, it doesn't because the ball's hit too hard. But if a guy is on third, you don't even need a hit. You need a fly ball, or you need, obviously, a base hit, or you need a wild pitch or a pass ball. The amount of pressure and the pitch selection that you take away from the pitcher, he's not as apt to throw a lot of junk, meaning balls in the dirt, balls severely outside, balls severely high, severely inside. He's more apt to be really close around the plate, which gives your player a chance to hit the ball. And if he goes against the grain and says, I'm going to pitch how I want to pitch, and starts throwing a lot of, filthy stuff in the dirt, the chances are higher that he is going to throw a wild pitch or have a pass ball and score. So the difference. Now let's go back to the 10th inning. It was the same situation. It was I believe first and second, no outs, and what's the guy's name? Bautista strikes out. Right? So had he bunted, it would have been second and third. The next guy was Russell Martin, who came up, who obviously grounded into a double play to end that inning. But had Russell Martin now been up with second and third, the same rule would have applied. There's a guy on third, most likely they're going to walk Russell Martin, but that's a moot point. The point being, the difference between having a runner on second versus third is huge. And this goes back to the thought process, what I brought up, the AL versus the NL. The NL is always more likely to play baseball in the traditional sense, where they generate runs from steals, from bunting, from playing a certain situation where they have to put themselves in a better position to score. The AL is this big machismo league where they think everybody's a slugger and everybody can hit. And if you're bunting, it's kind of like you're wasting it out. But that goes back to chess versus checkers. I'd rather play chess all day instead of play checkers. But that's just my thoughts on how to. Now, obviously, Toronto won, so it doesn't matter. But everybody's going to say, "Oh, Patrick, what difference does it make?" To me, it makes a big difference, man. It's just how you play the odds in your favor in baseball. Especially, you see them all the time. Oh, I'm gonna put a left-hander in because the left-hander's up. Put a right-hander in because the right-hander's up. I'm gonna do the shift. I'm gonna put the infield in. Well, bunt, man. Bunting is part of the game, man. Bunting is generating an out to get progress on the base paths, to move forward and get closer to home. But that's just my two thoughts, man. Let me know what you think. Put your ideas in the comments. Like, subscribe my channel, please, man. And share this video with your friends if they're baseball or sports enthusiasts, man. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.